Is the league juiced right now, numbers wise? Are we seeing a league that's juiced? A player's numbers inflated? I have some season stats here. I'm just going to go through the top 5 in all the categories real quick. I'll do the top 3 from each of them. So points per game right now, 31.3 for Brad Beal, leading the league. Dame Lillard comes in at just under 30 and 29.9. Steph Curry, 29.2. Rebounds, Capella's got 14.1. Gobert, second, 13.3. Valanciunas, 12.5 in third. Assists per game, Harden with 11.1. Yeah, Westbrook, 10.7. Number 3, Trae Young, 9.6. Blocks per game, you got Miles Turner with 3.5. Rudy Gobert, 2.9. Clint Capella, 2.3. Steals per game, Drew Holiday, 1.8. Kawhi 1.8, TJ McConnell 1.8, so a 3-way tie there. Field goal percentage, you got Gobert, and then a list of big guys leading that, obviously. Gobert's at 65% right now, which is extraordinary. 3-pointers made, Steph Curry number 1, Buddy Hield number 2, Lillard number 3, all tied, 3-way tie for 193 makes. 3-point percentage, which is an interesting one we'll get into a little bit later. Tony Snell is leading the league right now at 57.1%, which is amazing. We'll get into that shortly. Joe Ingles, my guy, 49.4. Joe Harris, 48.5. Fantasy points, so I guess everything they do joined together, which is basically a PER or per. Jokic leads that at a 55.8. Giannis second, Harden third, Doncic, Westbrook. But I mean, how do you see it? I've gone back and I've got I did some data really quickly. I did some homework, but how do you see it? Do you think right now the numbers we see in the league are juiced up a little bit?
Well, Bogues, when you and I were speaking about it, at first I'm like, maybe he's got a point. I mean, 57 is really high for Snell and just leading the league in threes. And I'm like, all these guys like Bradley Beal scoring a hell of a lot of points. The assists are high. The rebounds are a little bit. But then I went back since 2011, 2012, so basically 10 years. So I'll just go what I have real quick in. It's about average across the board, except the threes. The threes are up about 9.2%. But points per game leader is about 31.1. We're at 31.3. Assists, 10.9. We're at 11.1. Rebounds, 14.5 average. We're at 14.1 with the leader. Blocks are a little high, 3.5 versus 3. Steals are down. It's 1.8. The leader, the average is 2.2. Field goal percentage, 68.4 is the average leader. Threes made, 294.5 for the year is high. The highest right now is at 193. If you prorate that, that's at about 289. And then the threes we talked about. Now, the reason why I think some of these numbers are high when we have these things going on is obviously because of style of play. I mean, if you look at it like 12 years, I went back team numbers to like games number, like averages and things, points per game collectively in a game. 2009, 2010 was at 200. We're at 223.2 this year, average every game. Shots per game is up by about 6.6. Threes are from 36.2 in 2009, 2010 to 69.4 a game. So like obviously the amount of threes, the scoring. Now the funny thing is like free throws per game hasn't really gone up, and free throw percentage is usually right around the same, as well as 3-point percentage. Now the makes are higher and the takes are higher, obviously, but the percentages are around anywhere from 35 to 37 in the last 10, 12 years. So yeah, we could talk about, I'll talk about Snell later, but what are your thoughts on it, Bogues? Because you brought it up, and I thought it was a good point, because you know how players are, especially with contracts and, trying to get ranked high in the league, I've coached, you played with a bunch of guys who probably hunted rebounds, hunted threes, hunted points, and they know they want to get theirs. Regardless if they win or lose, they want to get their stats, for one reason or another, bonuses or MVP race or all-star, things like that. What are your thoughts on it?
I thought it was juiced until I looked at the numbers, like you said. So I just did points per game and based it upon points per game. And so you look at the top 3 right now in the NBA as we stand. Beal's at 31.3, Lillard at 29.9. Steph Curry's at 29.2. So I decided to go back, 3 decades essentially. I've gone back to 1980, and the top 3 then was Dantley had 30.7 points a game. So a little bit under what Beal's averaging. Moses Malone was at 27.8. George Gervin was at 27.1. You move to 1990. Michael Jordan was at 31.5. So currently beating today's leader in Bradley Beal. Karl Malone, 29.0. Bernard King, 28.4. And then you go to the year 2000 in Allen Iverson, 31.1. Jerry Stackhouse, 29.8. And Shaquille O'Neal at 28.7. So not a huge difference. I thought there would be a bigger disparity, but it just, I don't know, maybe just seems that way. But I think as a whole, collectively, there's a whole lot more players in the 20s than there was back in the day. That's been the big difference, in my opinion, because the style of play has obviously changed. And you look at like an AI, I mean, his usage was insane when he played with Philly. Everything went through him. MJ the same for the most part until Phil got there. Everything was going through him. Shaquille O'Neal the same. So I think what's changed is you got a lot of like probably mid-level guys now that are averaging 20s because the way the game is kind of coached has changed.
Yeah, I agree. The pace is a lot higher. The style of play. I think there's a lot more people like clunked in there. Like before you might have someone now I didn't check this, but now like the top 5 scorers in the league, 31-3, 29-9, 29-9, 29-2, 28-8. It's a lot of close races and guys are clunked in together, where it's not like a 5 or 6 point differential from 1 or 2. It's right there, and everybody's a lot of high 20s there. And I just think the style of play, I always used to, with player development, I used to always tell our guys, look, there's 450 players in the league. There's only about 100 players that get 10 shots a game. Well, that number is probably up to about 115 that get 10 shots or more a game. So more shot attempts, more threes, more points. Not necessarily a huge jump, but I think a lot more people are I think in the middle are inflating their numbers because of the style of play. And that's sort of a lot higher. I think you notice those things. I just think that the game's changed and that's that's the product of it. And it's not necessarily affecting the top, but probably more the middle than the top.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think the optics sometimes look worse, but then the numbers prove you wrong. They've proved me wrong in this case. I thought the way the game's refereed, it is much tighter and you adjust, players adjust, but it felt like free throws would be at an all-time high these last 5 or 6 years. And then you look at the free throw numbers and there was an era in the 40s or 50s where there was over 30 free throw shot a game. So, it hasn't really changed that much. And like we've always discussed, players will get smart, they'll adapt, coaches will adapt, and hey, you can't have an armbar anymore on a guy on a drive if he's facing up. You can't even have a fingertip on him. Teams and players are going to adjust, and I think that's happened. But one interesting one that we brought up was the Tony Snell. So, 57.1% is insane to shoot from the 3-point line. So straight away, I had to look at the numbers because I'm like, look, is this barely one free 3-point attempt? Is this just like, small numbers, small case study? So of course he's leading the league, but it's respectable. He's only averaging 5.5 points per game, but he's playing 20.9 minutes per game at the moment. His 3-point field goal percentage is 57.1. That's on 1.4 makes for 2.5 attempts. I wouldn't say it's a big bunch of threes that he's shooting, equivalent to a Joe Ingles or a Joe Harris or anyone else in that top 5, but it's still respectable, and that's a pretty insane number. So I look back and the all-time league leader, all-time NBA history is Kyle Korver, who shot 53.6% from beyond the arc in 2009-10 season with the Utah Jazz. He's the current all-time leader, obviously, as I just said. His numbers were, he made 1.1 three-pointers for 2.1 attempted for 53.6%. So Snell's arguably taken more than that, and he'll be deserved to be crowned the all-time leader, in my opinion, if he keeps this up. What are your thoughts?
So I went back today and watched all 91 of his 3-point attempts. And I think any young player, I don't care what level you are, should watch how Tony Snell shoots his threes. Because he doesn't hunt them. He doesn't do that bullshit sidestep, step back, cha-cha-cha bullshit with 3 hands on him. He doesn't shoot from 38 feet away from the basket. All he does, Bogues, is they spread it out. They've got Trae Young. They had Rondo, Bogdanovich. They would drive, kick to him in the corner, and it's a spot up 3. The only thing that he would do is like maybe jab at a guy once in a while. He could shoot him while he's contested, but like while the guy's running at him and he could shoot the three, he doesn't try to dribble, doesn't try to ISO. He doesn't do anything that he can't do. He's wired like a fucking sniper. Oh, excuse me. I apologize. There's my one. He's wired like a sniper.
Yeah.
He's like, if you watch Bradley Cooper in American Sniper, like he's like that. I've been around him a little bit, and Bogues, he like gets good threes. And the 2.5 that he shoots a game, they're mostly all good looks unless it's end of game clock or end of shot clock. And that's why he shoots 57.1%. He doesn't hunt them like these other guys do. He doesn't try to shoot them in transition like these other guys do. He doesn't try to emulate guys when they set screen and rolls 27 feet from the basket and the guy goes under and he tries to shoot behind the screen. He just does what he does. He's a really good shooter. A lot of guys that are good shooters in that league, but they take so many bad shots, they end up being at 37% or 36 or 35. Now, he's a high up to the extreme, but watching those shots, I'm like, if I'm working with a player trying to make it, I'm saying, watch this guy. Don't watch Curry. Don't watch Lillard. Don't watch McCollum. No offense to those guys. Those guys are elite shooters in the league. And they're elite shot makers that one way or another. And they do what they do. But this guy learns how to survive in this league. He's at 57, so he knows what he's doing. And it's not like he's shooting 0.2 per game and he's just like gets the number of minimum attempts. He gets a decent amount of looks, not a high number, but a decent number. And this guy just gets good looks. And when you're hunting threes and you're taking all these contested shots off one leg, trying to be Dirk Nowitzki, it's hard, man. It's hard. This guy doesn't do that. And he puts his team in a position to win because he's efficient. He can make shots. He doesn't do anything that he can't do. And he's a sniper. He's an impressive kid to watch if you're trying to learn how do I get my shots? He's the American Ryan Brokoff.
And that's it. I assume, I haven't seen a lot of those clips that you speak about, but I assume my assumption would be that he catches it, he's wide open, he shoots it. If he doesn't, he moves it on and makes the right decision with it. And that's just a testament to a lot of kids in college and high school that are trying to make it. If you do one thing in the league at an elite level, whether it be, you look at like a TJ McConnell, for instance, he's notorious for picking up full court. And that's what's kind of got him minutes. And now he's starting to get his assist numbers up. He doesn't shoot a three, he won't shoot a three, but he picks up full court at an elite level. Tony Snell, feet set, elite level. You're going to play minutes, you're going to make a living. And sometimes we have guys, like you said, that get caught up in, hey, I want to shoot that step back like James Harden. Well, there's only one of those guys generally per team with that license, maybe two. Some teams don't even have guys with that license. So you kind of want to aim for a Snell and a McConnell at times. And sometimes they're disrespected by fans, by other players, but they're going to make, some decent money. They'll be able to retire with a pretty decent bank account just from doing one thing elite.
Boys and girls at home, the guy averages 5 a game. He makes $12.2 million a year because he can do one thing better than most people on the planet.